Welcome to Women Disrupting, the podcast that amplifies the voices of women who refuse to wait for change. I'm Yasmin Arif, your impatient host. Together, we'll confront injustice, share bold stories, and spark actionable solutions. Ready to disrupt the status quo? Let's ignite it right now. I'm delighted to welcome Peju the Spark Abuchi to my podcast today. She is an award-winning speaker, coach, author, and educator of over 2 decades. She's passionate about empowering individuals, leaders, communities, and organizations to ignite their inner spark by transforming how they live, love, and lead. I think this has to be one of my favorite Women Disrupting episodes. I won't say much more, but all you have to do is listen. And I promise you, you will be absolutely energized by this creative wonder. Welcome, Peju, to the Women Disrupting podcast. How are you this morning?
It's good to be here, Yasmin. I think we've tried to make this happen for some time, so I'm really glad we're doing this together. I'm good. I have a cold. It's November and we're in kind of deep cold of the UK, but I'm good. It's good to be here.
Plowing on. You are described as an award-winning speaker, coach, author, and educator. So tell me, what is it that you do?
Good question. I started off calling myself a poet educator, which is educating through the power of poetry. And I was thinking yesterday about the times we're in, and I really believe these are the times for creatives to really stand up and rise up and be seen and be heard. I feel like creativity, and to even narrow that down, poetry seemed to be that naughty little brother of the big brother leadership and all the concrete ways of showing up in society. And I feel like now leadership in all its confidence is wavering and floundering and saying to little brother creativity, I need you. And that's what I do. I love to positively disrupt leadership spaces by saying creativity is crucial for problem solving, for solution bringing. Creativity is crucial for joy, for laughter. And those two can coexist. You can have strong leadership and you can have fun creativity.
Oh, I love it. So just give us a bit more context as to what that looks like in practice.
So I'd be invited. I'll talk about a couple of gigs I've had recently. So I was invited to a big homeless charity a few weeks ago to speak at their annual general meeting and to talk about identity. I feel like we are losing a sense of ourselves. We are caught up in the doing. It's on to the next and on to the next and on to the next. And I like to say, reflection is not a luxury. It is necessity. And so what I bring through creativity and through poetry is not even that different, but I'm saying the same things in a different way. And because so many people are tired of same old, same way, you bring the same message through a medium like poetry, you get somebody like me into your organization, and all of a sudden there's a shift. Because the people you want to get this message across to feel this sense of, ooh, I feel serenaded, I feel mesmerized, but she's speaking truth to power. So that was one. And then I got another gig where I was invited into a big corporate to come and speak about the power of standing firm in pride and knowing who you are and having the confidence to speak up and to take up space. And again, I feel like we're speaking to a time in humanity where there is so much anxiety and fear and burnout, and you bring a creative in and there's a shift. And I like to say to leaders, before you can move forward, and a lot of leaders want to race on and get ahead, before you can move forward, you need to move inward. And part of moving inward is to move upward into where those beliefs really start to form and take shape and even become subconscious. And you bring something like poetry, you bring a creative, it disrupts that human way of thinking where you're feeling more like a machine And creativity brings humanity, it brings this beautiful unity of humanity and strength.
That's so, I guess, energizing to hear, because when you think about corporate training, you do conjure up an image of stuffy conference rooms where people are speaking very seriously and in a very sort of transactional way.
Yeah.
So to bring that creative element into the corporate space seems quite disruptive in itself.
It is. And a lot of people have for so long disputed the power of it, and they've tried other things. And now they are learning that some of those other things have worked to a certain extent or haven't necessarily worked as much as they wanted it to work. And now I feel like we're in the times where people are saying, let's try creativity again. And so I'm saying, creatives, rise up. Whatever you have in your heart to do, get on and do it, because there is a need for the beauty that we bring with the works of our hands and with the sound of our voice and with the convictions from our souls, where we're birthing new things in old spaces. We're literally asked to bring life into these spaces that are not quite functioning as well as they thought they would, without that little fun, naughty brother they used to call creativity.
And I guess you come in as a catalyst just to sort of shake things up and bring that creative energy. When you leave, what is it that the people in the organizations, businesses, whatever you work with, can be doing in the long term to make it a more creative space?
Yeah. Well, firstly, I think connecting to their humanity. So in one of the recent gigs that I had a conversation after I performed with an older man who was moved to tears, and he just didn't allow himself to cry because he was at work. For me, the first thing is that you in the audience, each of you, you're so important that I want the message to hit your heart first. I want you to be moved to connect firstly with your humanity. Because if you don't connect with your humanity, you might not understand what it looks like to champion somebody else connecting with their humanity. And predominantly, corporates, organizations, charities, and brands are about people. And once you get people, you get it. So for me, once you've connected with that source of, I'm human, I'm a human in relationship, in work mode with another human. And because I really value my humanity, I will value their humanity. And imagine an organization of people who value who they are and value who the other people are. That seeps into the business. That seeps into transformation. That seeps into meeting targets, because you are recognizing that people who are alive and who feel seen and heard and valued and respected do their best work.
And you talk a lot about this connection to humanity. You gave an example of going into an organization and someone was moved to tears, which is a good example, isn't it, of connecting to the soul, maybe the emotion within. But it also seems quite abstract, doesn't it? Connect to humanity. Like what else does that look like in a workplace?
Yeah. So there's a conference that I feel so grateful I got to be in the room. It was called the Poetry in Business Conference. And there was a lovely lady who did the first keynote. And Lauren talked about poetic intelligence. She said, we're living in deeply poetic times. And part of the way she uses her intelligence with poetry is to disrupt spaces in organizations where, instead of feeling like I've been asked to come in and to deliver a talk or to facilitate a workshop, I don't seem to have all the answers, because quick fixes are not the order of the day anymore. She will produce a poem that really resonates with the theme, with where the organization's at, and just get people to read, to internalize, and to begin to share. And when you hear different voices, a diversity of thought, you begin to celebrate difference and not see it as a threat. So I think bringing a creative aspect could be bringing a quote, not a solution necessarily, bringing a poem, not a fix it all, one size fits all, because people are so different. And when you start disrupting your meetings, your staff away days, your organizational structure, when you start disrupting that from the top, you really see that there's more creativity within your people than you've allowed them to bring out. Because it's, like I said, in organizations, it's tick tock, on to the next thing, same old, same old. When do people reflect? When do people connect to their creativity? When do people join hands in humanity and say, oh, I never knew you had that hidden trait. I love it. Tell me more.
Yeah, I hear you, because for a large part of my career, I was an English teacher. So this was my bread and butter, sharing poetry with the students, bringing poets in, and then feeling that energy from really great poets, you know, who came and performed their poetry for us. And the kids were all buzzing from it when they were really great. And then it wouldn't enter my head, I'm going to be honest with you, to bring that into the organization that I work with now, which is quite different. It's more sort of corporate. It's more like, I would say, leaning towards that. And I think one of the reasons is we've been conditioned in the corporate spaces to think ROI, return on investment. So
yes.
how's the poet coming in for the day, taking that precious time from production and, you know, the frontline work? How's that going to add return on investment? So how can we sort of manage or handle that objection?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I lean into the people, planet, profit. And we spew that out without necessarily embedding it into everyday culture. So what does it mean to value people first, to value the environment, and then to value profit? Because profit is important. It puts food on the table. It gives people jobs. But I believe when the priority is different, because you could say we're all about people, planet, profit, and then you ask your people and they say, no, actually, I think we're profit, planet, people. We do it the other way around. And if people feel like it's all about profit, it can be a very discouraging, whiplashing kind of environment to work in, where you're, in a sense, killing creativity just to get the job done. But if people feel valued, if you truly, and I say this to organizations, I say this to leaders, when you say to your people, bring your whole selves to work, don't say it if you don't mean it. Because people will take your word for it. They will bring all of who they are, messy and wonderful, and we're all made of strength and struggle and sparkle. If your people feel like you truly are invested in them as people, you're invested in their families because you're invested in them, you care enough about who they are, about what they bring, even as much as, or dare I say, more than the profit margin, organizations will do better. I mean, we see the stats, all of these stats about diversity and inclusion and belonging. These big organizations have tapped into the facts that organizations do better because their people are happier. And diversity of thought means you are stronger in your offering as an organization. You do stand out, but you have to test it. It's one of those test it and see.
Yeah, for sure. What are some of you've talked about diversity, inclusion, and belonging, which are important themes, and I'm making an assumption that those are some of the themes in your poems that you bring into the workspace. So tell me a little bit about some of the themes and topics in your poems that you take into the workplace.
Yeah, so sometimes I would get a brief that says, come and inspire our people. You just decide how, you know how to do it, right? Come and inspire people. And creativity is not the sort of thing, if you could explain creativity, it wouldn't be creativity. If you could fully describe and define poetry, it wouldn't be poetry, because there's something quite divine about it. There's something quite fluid. There's something that means for somebody different, for a different poet or a different creative, it means something different because it's a soul sort of work and mission. And so I get asked the question, did you just create that spontaneously? Like, wow. And sometimes I do. I was on a podcast yesterday. My husband and I, we have a podcast which we really are we love doing. It's just for the fun of it. And it's about championing couples to thrive in every season of life. It's called the Jedi and the Spark Show. And it was our penultimate episode yesterday for season 1. And we were talking about grief, because grief is real. And we had the recording at 2:00, and by 9, I had created something quite spontaneous and quite beautiful, because I am in a season of grief, having lost my dad last year. So it was real. And I could tap into the heart and the emotion and the soul and the trauma of loss very quickly. But it also takes preparation. Some other briefs are, we are struggling. Our people don't feel they belong. Can you write something on belonging? Can you write something on privilege? Can you write something on royalty? Because not all experiences of the global majority are experiences of trauma or experiences of prejudice. Some people come with the experience of strength from other countries. They come with the experience of royalty, something that I bring, having come from a family where my great-granddad was the king of a part of Yoruba land called Ile-Ife. And so they can be specific in that brief. And again, the power is preparation, because I never take it for granted and think, oh, I'm a poet, I'm just going to churn it out on the spot. I think it is such a privilege to be able to stand in a space, to know people have given time and paid good money to hear me speak. So for me, the magic is in the preparation. It's in the repetition and the preparation and being able to tap into something deep that I know the organization needs, from doing research and from tapping into internal poetic wisdom. And that's what it looks like.
Wow. I'm really looking forward to hearing one of your poems, because I think you've reminded me of the power of poetry, and it's not about necessarily an outcome. I feel from my personal experience, when I hear a poem that is powerful, it's because I feel seen. Some experience or emotion has been captured in a really beautiful way. And it's like, oh, wow, yes, that's it. And you've never maybe been able to articulate it yourself before, but when someone else does it, there's a real resonance, isn't there?
Absolutely. That's it. I think if we're all about the output, then we miss the journey that inspires itself. And poetry does that. It speaks into the unknown. It speaks into society's wanting to control everything and wanting to be on top of everything and wanting everything to make sense and for everything to be uncertain. Poetry says, oh no, life is uncertain. Life is volatile. Do you see what I mean? And enjoy holding on to the beauty and the need for certainty. Poetry speaks to both.
It really does. Makes you feel like you belong. And that's so important. What you also said about making sure that we don't just stereotype communities like the global majority and assume that they just want to hear about trauma. I love that connection that you've got with royalty. And actually, that's how some from the global majority feel seen.
Yes.
For sure. No, it's a really important point. I know that I asked you to bring a poem today to share. I couldn't not. I would like you maybe to read it out in a minute. When you sort of introduce a poem to an audience, do you just go straight into it, or do you give it some intro, some subtext? What's your preferred kind of intro?
I love your questions, Yasmin. Again, it depends on the moment. And sometimes the moment requires I just jump straight into the poem. And sometimes the moment requires that there is some explanation or information or inspiration that just needs to prelude the poem. It depends.
I get you. Well, this podcast is in the spirit of women disrupting. And I asked you to bring one that was linked to that theme. So why don't you just dive in and read it, and then we'll see what happens after.
We are not a color. We are a revolution. Embrace us fully and let's end this commotion. We're not a threat. We're an inspiration. Engage with us and let's change the Constitution. We're not weak. We were born to strengthen every generation. Come with us to a more beautiful destination. Open your eyes, your heart, and your mind. You'll learn a few things that will make you more kind, and kindness itself is a treasure to find. The darker the berry, ooh, the sweeter the juice. The darker the night sky, the brighter the stars. The darker the veggies, ooh, the more potent the nutrients. The opposite of light is in blackness. The opposite of light is darkness. The opposite of happy is in blackness. The opposite of happy is sadness. The opposite of wise is in blackness. The opposite of wise is foolishness. The opposite of sanity is in blackness. The opposite of sanity is madness. It is time to end the darkness. It is time to end the sadness. It is time to end this foolishness. It is time to end this madness. So open your eyes, your heart, and your mind. You'll learn a few things that will make you more kind. And kindness itself is the treasure to find. We're not a color. We're a decision to live, to love, to endure. We're not a threat. We're an invitation to learn, to hear, to see there's more. And there is so much more. We are not weak. We are transformation that grows through the frustration of little white lies, half truths, and the ongoing cessation. We just want to rise up and shine, enrich like red wine, flourish without paying a fine, dare to win and not whine, refuse to decline like cheap wine, and recline in the loving arms of the divine. We're not a color. We are a blessing to this diverse nation, an asset to the global population. We are an equal part of this equation that leads to the perfect solution. Thank you.
No, thank you. That was amazing.
Thank you.
I need a bit of time just to digest because it's made me realize the power. Like I've got goosebumps. I think what a way to start my morning. I feel like energized from that.
Thank you.
I forgot that poetry is just more than words. When you perform it, it's like an energy, isn't it?
Yes, it really is. Thank you, Yasmin.
What does that poem mean to you?
Truth. It's speaking truth to power. And poetry does that. Poetry is an uninvited guest that you know you need at your dinner table because it will speak truth to power, but it's palatable. People will hear it, they will receive it, they'll be moved by it, they will chew on it, and they will come back and tell you about it. That's the power of poetry. And when I wrote that poem, I thought, you know what, I am tired of more of a focus being on, are they global majority? Are they Black minority ethnic? Are they people of color? What shall we call them? Don't call us anything. Accept us as we are, with strength, with struggle, with wounds, with wisdom, with wonder. When you change how you see things, the things you see change. And so I wrote that as a declaration for my people to say, remember who you are. Mm-hmm. When you step into that identity, people will engage with you differently. And it's also for allies to say, there is so much more. And we're here to bring good. We are here to bring goodness. That was always the plan. Accept the good. And when you take that good, you'll see there's so much more good. It is a declaration.
Yeah, I definitely felt that when I was reading it. I think it speaks to this idea of identity and labels, doesn't it? Which are so messy and restrictive and clunky because, you know, people want to get it right as well. And it's kind of like, well, let's just stop getting bogged down in these labels.
Exactly. And I think more than a label, I want you to ask me what my name means. instead of shine away, and I love you did that at the start. You said, how do I pronounce your name properly? I love that. I don't take offense. I love it. But you can have a culture or society that just shies away from difference and shies away from discomfort. But discomfort helps you grow, right? So what I want is that we're leaning in to what's deeper than what you see on the outside, right? Because what's truly divine in our humanity is what connects us. It's the sweat that has no color, the tears that have no color, the blood that is the same color. When we lean into the fact that we share similar griefs and traumas, and we cry about very similar things, and when we bleed, we are the same. When we lean into that, gosh, the respect for humanity, the respect and the value for the other person, and dare I say, the love that begins to grow, the compassion for, we are all on this journey together. Let's support each other, because it doesn't work for one part of humanity to be racing ahead while another part is limping and struggling. Turn around and help your fellow human. Then we get there together. That's true humanity.
It really is. And have you read that poem to an organization before? Is that one that you've shared? And what's the response that you get from that poem?
So I actually shared it again. I've shared it at Black Inclusion Week. I was invited to perform at the closing ceremony a few years ago, I think last year or 2 years ago. And only last month, I was in a big law firm, big corporate law firm, global law firm, and I performed that. And the people who looked like me, you could have said they were flying. The energy that gave them this added spring in their step, like, you see us, you hear us, we are a blessing to this diverse nation, thank you. And there was emotion. I mean, gosh, the conversations I've had to have after that, because people, like I said at the start, when you move one individual, they recognize that each individual has the capacity to be moved. And when more people are moved, that's a movement of change. And it's not about, well, are you an ally or are you somebody with a lived experience? You're like, we're humans risking for each other because we deeply value what is intrinsically divine in each human being.
I love that response. I've got this image of just everyone sitting there deadpan at the start thinking, what's this? And then those people coming alive who feel finally seen. That must be really rewarding for you as a poet to experience that.
It is. It is. And I love going around the room and people saying that was amazing. And I say, what was it that was amazing for you? Because it helps me in the process of debriefing with myself. It helps with the reflection, that luxury of reflection that is not a luxury, but a necessity. It helps to give a spark to the next performance. And somebody would say, I just felt like you gave words to my trauma. Or an ally would say, I really believe in what you were saying. That's the world that I want to live in, but I feel scared, or I feel lost, or I feel judged. That's the power of poetry. It just gives life to each person's experience of your words, which are different. I find myself at the helm of an event, standing at the front, and I feel like my words are being sent out as messengers of love to each heart, each mind, each soul that sat there as energy saying, hear me. Because when you hear me, you hear yourself. And then it gives words to what you want to say, but you felt afraid to say. It gives words to a conversation you know you need to have with somebody who's different, but who's so much like you.
And I'm assuming that you've had that yourself as a receiver of poetry. Tell me, who is one of your favorite poets?
Amanda Gorman. Amanda Gorman was the poet laureate when Joe Biden was being inaugurated as the American president, and she read The Hill We Climb. And she's young, and she is distinguished and she speaks such truth. But again, when you speak truth to power, but you serenade the audience, they will receive your words. And she does that. She has a grace as though she's older. And you can tell that she speaks with wisdom and she speaks from a place of knowing and she speaks with wonder and her age is no barrier. So yeah, I like her.
I can see why. That was iconic, wasn't it? I've got that image of her lovely yellow. Was it a yellow?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, you know it. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It stands out in history, that as a really iconic moment.
Definitely.
Of course.
Yeah.
Tell us where we can access more of your poetry if we've got the appetite for it, because I know I'm going to be doing it after this call.
So you can hear me poetize even on the podcast, like I said, the Jedi and the Spark show. We're on YouTube. My channel for poetry and speaking is also on YouTube, Peju the Spark. And on Instagram, you can find me, Powerful Poetic Presence. But if you want concentration of poetry and prose and an invitation to begin to craft words that will change your life, then my book, A Poetic Odyssey of Proclamations, 31 Ways to Sow, Grow, and Flow Goodness into Your Life, is available on Amazon.
Thank you. So much to tap into there. And you have made my morning. Your energy's amazing.
Mission accomplished. Thank you, Yasmin.
And I know that you'll bring a lot of joy to the listeners when they listen to this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yasmin. It's been a joy. Thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for listening to Women Disrupting. I'm Yasmin Arif, reminding you that change doesn't come to those who wait, but to those who act. If today's episode lit a fire in you, share your thoughts and the stories that moved you. Let's turn inspiration into momentum, because disruption doesn't end here. Join us next time as we continue to challenge, connect, and create a better world together.